There are certain things that poor people say that keeps them poor. And one of the things that people oftentimes say that causes them to stay stuck in a spiral of poverty, or indication of poverty thinking, is I'm not going to work for somebody else and make them rich. That's one of the things that people oftentimes say. But what they fail to realize is that by working for someone else, all you're doing is refining and honing your own skills as an individual, which then increases your value as a person, as a business owner. And when your value increases, you can actually charge more and you find yourself growing wealthier.
That me though. That me though. I ain't got no problem with what you do. I'ma do me though. Yeah. I like chains on top of my chains for real, but that's me though.
Poor people oftentimes say things that keep them poor, that keeps them in a spiral of poverty, is what we call the poverty mentality. And, you know, all of us have probably dealt with it or are still dealing with it, especially if you're raised in a certain household and a certain family, and, you know, you are taught that, well, you know, those that are wealthy, they're just evil, snarling, you know, red-eyed monsters, you know, and those that are poor, they are just humble, you know, perfect little angels that are maligned and being mistreated. We kind of have this image in our head of people that are wealthy versus people that are poor. And oftentimes we give the virtue award to those that are poor, and we assign the greed award to those that are wealthy. But the fascinating thing is all of that actually runs contrary to what the Bible actually says. For example, in the book of Proverbs, Solomon talks about poverty and the excuses that he lists as to the leading causes of poverty. Well, he didn't list in there virtue or virtuousness or humility. Actually, one of the things Solomon said is, they that love wine and strong drink, they will always be poor. They that love pleasure, they will always be poor. In other words, when Solomon talked about poverty, he talked about it as being the result of a lack of discipline, an undisciplined life, a life that has no vision, no goals, that has no discipline to follow through with the vision that God may have given an individual. A person that is oftentimes distracted, and rather than being disciplined enough to make the sacrifices, they give themselves over to pleasure and they just kind of live off of a whim, and then they fall into the pit of addiction, such as wine, strong drink, and plenty of other vices. And next thing you know, these things just siphon off all of their money. And next thing you know, you're back in that place again of not having. So biblically, you know, the ideas that we have about poverty and wealth, oftentimes they conflict with what the Bible actually teaches. But one of the biggest indicators is when people say that, oh, I don't want to make anybody else rich. No, I'm not finna sit here and work for somebody else and make them rich. You know, I want to be the person. I don't want to make somebody else, you know, build them up and build up that. Oh no, I want to be the man. I want to be the woman. And we kind of have that mentality. But the fascinating thing is when you think that way, you're actually cutting your opportunities. You're actually causing yourself to remain in a place of poverty. Jesus, he told us in the Gospels that the person who is the greatest is the one that is doing the serving, not the one who is being served. It's the one that's doing the serving, not the one that's being served. Now, the one who is serving could easily take the attitude and say, look, by me bringing drinks and food to this person and me serving this person, I feel like I'm inferior to them. I feel like they're taking advantage of me. I feel like, they think less of me because I'm serving them. I'm not going to serve them anymore. I'm just going to go and sit down and wait for somebody else to serve me. And we kind of, that's the way a lot of people feel. Like, all right, by serving someone else, I'm being subordinate and I'm being inferior to them. So I don't want to serve them because I don't want to be made to feel inferior. Well, we have to understand that servanthood requires a special strength and a wisdom. And there's a reason why Jesus said the one that is doing the serving is actually greater than the one that's being served, because the one that's doing the serving, well, they are perfecting their skills, they are honing their skills, they are strengthening their gift, they are gaining real world experience that ups their value, and they are doing all of this as a result of serving someone else. They are better positioning themselves to be in a position where they can be in charge, where they can be the leader. Why? Because they know what it takes to serve. They know what it takes to produce. They know what it takes to run things, because they put themselves in a position to be the servant. Therefore, they know what it takes to produce a business or produce a product or what have you, and serve others. So you're actually putting yourself in a better position when you're the one doing the serving. So I want you to really kind of think about that the next time you complain about the job that you're working at. And the next time you complain about, well, I don't want to work for somebody else. I just want to be in business for myself, and I just want to do it. The truth of the matter is, and I'm all for entrepreneurship, but I also realize that there are a lot of people that have not learned what entrepreneurship actually is. It's nothing but serving other people. That's all. All that you're doing all day, all night, is you're just serving other people. And until you become good at serving other people, then you're not really ready to step into that role, because entrepreneurship isn't about you, it's about the other person. You're giving up your time, your energy, your resources, everything else to make sure that you serve the other person, and that becomes a lifestyle for you. And if you're not ready to serve, then you're not ready to run a business or to become an entrepreneur or any of those things. So a lot of people complain and say, well, I'm not making anybody else rich. I'm not finna sit here and burn my energy and spend my time, helping them in their own thing. Hey, I want to benefit me. But when you think about it, while you're working for someone else, while you're on someone else's job, aren't you benefiting you in many subtle ways? For example, and I think back when I was working at the church, and I was the print shop manager / graphic artist. So I did all of the graphics, all of the flyers, the bulletins, and all of that was my responsibility. And I did this for several years. And I'll never forget, and a lot of that was self-taught. I just had to teach myself how to use software, design software, teach myself how to do video editing. Just kind of had to learn a lot of things on my own. A lot of stuff was birthed out of necessity. There was nobody else doing it. So someone had to step in and fill in the gap. And I just kind of raised my hand and said, I'll step in. Didn't even ask for the position, just said, I want to come and just help. And next thing you know, I ended up getting stuck with that position. But while I was in that position as the print shop manager, that's where I really learned graphic arts, graphic design. That's where I really began to hone my skills, because I had to produce every week different bulletins. I had to produce flyers each and every week. I had to produce CD and DVD covers for different projects, for sermons and music. I had to sit down and just learn and teach myself how to use the design software, look at videos and to learn techniques on how to do this, how to do that. And all of this, well, it amounted to me just in developing a new skill. And so I took that skill and I said, well, you know what? Let me take it to the next level, take the bulletins to the next level, rather than doing these big, big old look like booklets. No, I'm gonna do something a lot smaller, just one cardboard, glossy paper sheet, that looks a lot more sleek and a lot better. And put fancy graphics and have, information here and there, and then nice fancy write-ups with awesome graphics on the back. And then I said, well, let me take it to another level and produce a magazine, a church. I said, well, this church is too big to not have its own magazine. So we produced a magazine, called together some people and put together a little staff and said, all right, you write an article on this, you interview that person, and we're going to create our own magazine for the ministry. And got in there and designed the magazine, all of the graphics, all of the stuff, looked at magazine covers, looked at the interior magazines to see how they were laid out, looked at the best, and then began to kind of copy and then refine it and make it my own. And so that whole time, all I was doing was developing a new skill set to go with my writing, which I was already doing. But now I'm incorporating design on top of that. And all of these skills, and not just that, but also the ins and outs of running a business, working for a record company, looking at how what systems to put in place, how to do this, how all of these things. It was training so that when I did step out to start my own thing, I already had a good foundation in place, a pretty decent foundation in place to know how to start, how to design, how to go through, and how to do these things in the spirit of excellence. So a lot of people, they complain about, oh, well, I don't want to make somebody else rich. But it's only in working for somebody else and sitting in someone else's thing that you begin to hone your skills, refine your skills, increase your skill set. So don't complain and feel like I'm being subordinate when actually you're getting the best education that you could ever receive. You won't get an education like this in school, trust me. The best education is when you're on that job and you have to, in real time, pick up skills, learn them, perfect them, utilize them, and continue to grow that company, grow that business, serve, and to do so while dealing with attitudes and personalities, all of the stuff that you cannot get in a classroom. There's no better education than that. So don't complain. Don't complain and say that, oh, well, I just feel miserable. Oh, I just wish I could just lunch out and just do my own thing. Oh, I'm tired of working for somebody else. Right now, while you're in that position, this is the best time for you to learn new skills, for you to refine them, for you to develop and increase in your abilities, for you to look at the system, show up to work and be intentional. Hey, I'm going to show up to work and I'm going to learn new skill sets. I'm going to use my skills and increase. And if I can take my company from this level of income to this level of income, then I develop the confidence to say that, okay, I'll be able to do this for other people, or I'll be able to do this in my own life as well. But you have to start someplace, and you have to start first by serving others, because all entrepreneurship is, if you don't already know, is just serving other people. That's all. And so you start first by serving your boss, then you can get into a place where now you can serve clients. But you got to first start, and someone has to give you a chance and an opportunity to explore your talents and gifts and to perfect them and to refine them. Someone has to give you that chance and that opportunity. So don't get upset and curse the place where you're working. Instead, show up to work intentional and say, I'm going to show up to work so that I can increase in my skill. And while you're there, Also, look at systems. Look at the way things are run. Look at the way business is done. Even if you're working at a fast food restaurant, how do they order the inventory? How do they do this? How do they store this? What payment systems do they use? What systems do they have in place to keep track of this and to increase productivity? How's the customer service and the training? And I mean, look at all of the systems that go into making a successful business. Don't just sit there and just doodle on your desk or just scroll up on Facebook or whatever. No, pay attention to where you are and what's going on, because those skills are the very things that will help you when you do decide to step out. And another thing about working for someone else or working on a job, if you have a vision in place, then you'll, instead of complaining about where you work, you'll begin to see your job as your financier, the one that is financing your dreams. Instead of complaining that, oh God, I know we oftentimes tell people that, look, you don't want to be in a position where you're trading time for money, and that is true. That's something for another video. However, when you're on someone else's time and they are paying you money, when you have time to sit back and to write out your vision, then do that. And understand that you can be working for someone else and working on your vision on the side in your own time, not on their time, but in your own time. You can also be building out your vision. And when you finally get the pieces in place for your vision, then you can see your job as your financier, the one that is financing your vision or financing your business or financing your dreams. I mean, where else are you going to go get money? Just borrow from the bank and then pay back all of these expensive fees and all of that stuff? No, you already have a source right there that is financing you on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis or monthly basis or whatever the case. You already have an institution that is already financing you, and you need to see that job as such, as the one that is paying for your dreams, the one that is financing your vision. But you need to have a vision first. I think about my story, me and my wife, when we first started out back in 2013, when we started, with everything that God had placed in her heart, and it was a team effort between the two of us. I remember we came together and we strategized, and we needed money to invest into a coach. Before we launched out or started anything, before we did anything, we said we want to start out the right way. Some people take the long path and they go and, maybe enroll in school, but we took the shortcut. We went and hired a coach. That's the key for you, the shortcut. We went and hired a coach. And we invested into this. It was thousands of dollars we invested to be able to sit down with this coach and go through her training, receive her mentorship and guidance. And I remember when my wife and I, we were strategizing and we said, okay, this is what we'll do. My paycheck is bringing in money to cover the bills, but you just work a couple of more weeks and stack up a couple of paychecks so that your paycheck will be able to pay for us to enroll in this coach's program, so that we can get the direct mentorship that we need. And so we used her job as the financier for our vision, for our dream. And that's exactly what she did. So she stayed there and she was very intentional. I'm going to work and continue to save up a couple of paychecks so that at the end of, by this time, then we have the money that we need to go ahead and invest into this program, and then we can launch out from there. And that's what we did. And so a lot of people, you need to see your job as your financier instead of your place of misery. Look at them as the one that is financing your dream. But you need to have a dream. You need to have a vision. You need to get back on the path of writing out your vision and writing out your plan. Or in other words, if you don't do that, then going to work will seem meaningless. It will feel like I'm just wasting away and just spending all my time doing this. Why? Because you don't have a plan in place for yourself. And when you have a plan in place for yourself, that job now looks like a bank to you. It's financing your vision. When you don't have a plan in place, that job just looks like a place of misery, So it's all in the way that you perceive things. You got to flip your perspective and stop looking at things the way a poor person does and see things differently. Be a person of vision. Be a person who has a plan, that knows where you want to go, that have a set of goals that are already written out. And as far as the finances, you know that those hours you're putting in over there, that money that you're getting, that money is now not going to be wasted on the clubs and going to be wasted on eating out every day, or be wasted on clothes and different stuff that you can hold off on. No, that money is going towards this vision, this dream, these goals to finance my vision. So that's just my 2 cents right there. Just to understand that, again, poor people, they always see it the wrong way. They think of themselves as being inferior, when actually when you're serving somebody else, all you're doing is increasing the skill set, which in turn increases your value. And that's when you can ask for more, because you have acquired more skill and more ability. And when you become the best at what you do, then you can demand top dollar because you give premium service. So don't see it as I'm subordinate. No, see it as this is my training ground where I'm able to perfect what I do and actually increase my skill set and become even more valuable to the marketplace.